Vaporwave is a complicated aesthetic to talk about. It's like peering into another world, a nostalgic dream of a future that never existed. Overbearing pastel colors paint the ocean and sky. Outdated hardware is still commonplace, and consumerism runs rampant as you are bombarded with flashy brand logos. It's an overwhelmingly complex aesthetic with its own equally complex origins. But what's so special about Vaporwave? What makes it different than other aesthetics? Where did it come from, and what is it trying to tell us? My name is Polygon and welcome to the aesthetic of Vaporwave. In the early 2010s, many music artists started developing a new experimental style that developed into its own genre. The music consists of heavily distorted samples of nostalgic media and can sometimes be described as either relaxing and comforting or sad and lonely. The infamous Floral Shop album by Macintosh Plus released in 2011 and is often noted as the most influential Vaporwave album, but it's definitely not the originator as many others came before. One of the earlier examples being this video that uploaded in 2009 titled Nobody Here. This video stands as a lonely call to a scene that doesn't even exist yet, because there's quite literally nobody there. The creator of the video is known as Sunset Corp, which has many other Vaporwave style songs uploaded far before the Floral Shop album, so they're mostly credited as the real originator of the genre. As the music developed, the name Vaporwave was coined around 2011. It derives from the term vaporware, which means commercial software that is announced but never released, which fits with the themes of the aesthetic. But we aren't here to talk about the music genre. Today, we're going to focus on the visual aesthetic that was birthed along with it. Many of these early songs and albums featured peculiar artworks as the covers or distorted VHS renders as the video. This visual style developed along with the music genre into a very broad and complex aesthetic that consists of many different elements, so we're gonna break it down into a few main ideas that connect everything together. First up is nostalgia. Vaporwave music almost exclusively samples media from the 80s to 90s, so pretty much anything from this time period that's nostalgic is also used in the aesthetic. Windows 95 pop-ups and primitive low-poly 3D renders are used pretty often due to the rapid development of 3D rendering. The 3D neon grid style you probably see a lot is technically still Vaporwave, but is mostly branched off into its own aesthetic known as synthwave. Outdated hardware is also a prominent element in Vaporwave, such as old game consoles, cassette tapes, VHS, and CRT screens. The VHS screen effect and other visual glitches are a staple of the aesthetic because of this. Nostalgic media like old commercials, advertisements, cartoons, and anime are also used. Nostalgic 90s anime are pretty common as many of them already fit the washed out color scheme of Vaporwave, such as Sailor Moon's glittery pastel pink color palette. The Vaporwave sun, funny colorful shapes, and checkerboard flooring are all staples of 90s media and decor, so they are also included in the aesthetic. The next major point is dreams, or surreal and altered realities. Vaporwave seems to represent that lost dream for the future this time period was obsessed with, so dreamlike imagery such as surreal and altered photos fit the aesthetic perfectly. The overbearing pink pastel color scheme represents the sugar-coated dreams of the future, while also adding a relaxing, blissful, and surreal feeling to an image. Many relaxing environments that can also be seen in nostalgic memories or dreams are also used, the most common one being the beach. The sparkling ocean, the warm sand, and the palm trees waving in the wind as the sun sets and fills the sky with colors. Clouds are also commonly associated with dreaming, so putting clouds where they aren't supposed to be adds to this feeling. Many of us have nostalgic memories of dozing off in the backseat of a car at night as you watch the streetlights and city skyline pass by. Visuals of a relaxing drive is something Vaporwave loves to include. Personally, it portrays a very comforting and therapeutic feeling. Sometimes the road is stretched to infinity with no end in sight, and sometimes it's in a virtual world or even the emptiness of space. Speaking of space, the dream of human expansion into outer space is something humans haven't achieved yet but have always dreamed of, so it fits the themes of Vaporwave really well. Liminal spaces radiate the themes of nostalgia and dreams, so they can also be used in Vaporwave. Liminal pools in particular are seen pretty often, sometimes with altered colors or special theming. It can also have a particular focus on the sparkly water reflections. The most common liminal space that truly radiates vaporwave energy are 90s malls, which brings us into the final point, consumerism. During this time period Vaporwave is nostalgic of, not only was technology rapidly expanding, but so was consumerism. Corporations began to stick their fingers into every part of your life with more aggressive and flashy advertising. Malls are the physical manifestation of consumerism, as they are an entire expansive building filled with stores, food courts, decorations, and advertisements made to get you to spend as much money as possible and make that money spending a memorable and pleasant experience. The malls of the 90s that were filled with neon lights aren't really seen anymore, so the visual is met with a sad but aesthetically pleasing and liminal feeling. Japanese visuals and text are used very often in Vaporwave, most likely due to Japan being at the forefront of the expansion during this time period. Japan was seen as an exotic and futuristic place to foreigners, due to the compact cities filled with bright lights and advertisements and wacky technology ideas. This also goes hand in hand with the nostalgia of Nintendo game consoles and anime. Cyberpunk is another aesthetic that is based off of the technological expansion of Japan and deals with heavy themes relating to consumerism, so cyberpunk media and visuals are also referenced in Vaporwave. Brand logos and advertisements are seen very frequently in Vaporwave, with a few specific brands being a lot more common than others. Arizona green tea cans already fit the Vaporwave color scheme and feature a Japanese sakura tree in the design. Fiji Water has really aesthetically pleasing bottles and are seen as the more expensive or elegant water brand, so its use in Vaporwave can sometimes be pretty satirical to make fun of their supposed elegance. Coca-Cola and Pepsi are two of the most popular drink brands in the world and have been for a long time. They've always had really flashy and aggressive marketing, and their old can designs are seen as nostalgic nowadays, especially Crystal Pepsi. McDonald's is one of the most popular fast food brands in the world, but specifically the #McTonight character is most oftenly referenced. #McTonight was very popular in the 90s and was featured in over-the-top surreal advertisements, but sadly this character is no longer used, so the nostalgia of him is met with a tinge of sadness. Solo cups have a very classic and nostalgic design that fits the Vaporwave color scheme perfectly. And finally, brand logos of nostalgic technology are also used, like Windows or game consoles like PlayStation. A bonus point about Vaporwave is the occasional use of classical Greek statues and pillars. There isn't really a clear answer as to why. Many just assume it's because the Floral Shop album used one in its cover. It could be because there was supposedly a trend in the 90s to have fake Greek statues in malls or mansions as a shallow attempt to look more elegant, and it could be making fun of this concept. During the peak of Vaporwave around 2016, it was looked at by the mainstream media as nothing but a meme, because for the most part, that's what it had become. It got way more popular than it was meant to, which brought in a really bad crowd with many different ideas. Groups of people used it to promote their political ideals, and many just made cringy, ugly meme edits using the aesthetic that became more popular than the original style. The nuance of the aesthetic was being washed out, and it would only get worse. There was a movement where many people saw the unironic enjoyment of the music and original style as just being pretentious, so the people who actually appreciated Vaporwave were called out and made fun of. The phrase "Vaporwave is dead" was being plastered everywhere, and eventually led to the downfall of the original aesthetic. Many people argue that the point of Vaporwave is to critique the expansion of capitalism. Others would argue that Vaporwave is actually celebrating the technological expansion, but at its core, Vaporwave is an art movement, not a political statement. One artist can be critiquing while another is celebrating. It developed naturally into what it is as an amalgamation of many different people's views of the new world. There is simultaneously a deeper meaning and no meaning at all, and it never wants you to know which is which. Vaporwave is an ambiguous and satirical force birthed from the internet that makes fun of everything, including itself. The aesthetic is but a canvas for you to project your own thoughts and feelings onto. Thanks for watching this video, but before I go, if you want to be dripped out with Vaporwave style clothing, I highly recommend checking out the sponsor of today's video, Vapor95. Pretty much all the visual cues of Vaporwave and more can be found in their shop. There's really something for everybody. I got a Vaporwave bed setup, some cool shirts, water pants, and Arizona green tea shorts. If you want a sweet 15% discount on literally everything, use code Polygon at checkout or the link in the description. Also, if you liked this video, make sure to like and subscribe and check out my other aesthetic videos if you're interested. Also, comment down below your favorite thing about Vaporwave. Okay, bye!